All right, guys. Going to get started with math here. Let me back up where you can see me. All right, we're going to get started with math on this Tuesday. You're watching this on Tuesday. We have a new math skill today, and I'm actually going to turn this way so you can see me a little bit better. It's I can compare and order decimals based on strategies of place value. And I'm sorry I'm looking both directions at the camera and here and at my computer screen because my computer's reflecting what's going up here, so it's a little weird. But we're comparing and ordering decimals today. And so what I want us to take a look at is this anchor chart that I've made to go with this skill. It's titled Comparing and Ordering Decimals. That's our skill. And then what I've got here is I've actually got 4 mountain peaks. And I've got their names and the states where they're located at. So we've got a little social studies going on in math here. And then I've got their heights in miles. So these are really super tall mountains located out west. And so they're really tall. So they're miles in height. And I've got them labeled here. They're not in any order. So we're going to talk about that in just a second. Based on their height in miles. Okay. And if you notice, they've all got they're all in decimal form. So they're all in a form of decimals. So first I'm going to read through each one, and then we're going to talk about how you compare and order them. So we've got Boundary Peak in Nevada. It is 2 and 488 thousandths miles high. And if you think about that, that's really close to 2.5 miles, because 2.5 would be 2.5 or 2 and 5/10. Then you've got Cloud Peak in Wyoming. It's 2 and 495 thousandths miles high. Grand Teton in Wyoming is 2 and 607 thousandths miles high. And then Wheeler Peak in New Mexico is the last one, and it is 2 and 493 thousandths miles high. So they're all actually really close to the same height, and I know that because they all are 2 and something, and they all are really close in the 10th place with being 4s, with this one being the outlier. So they're all really close to that 2.5 benchmark that we talked about just a second ago. So here is all you need to know. This is a really easy skill, but if you don't get this down the first time, it can be really tricky when working with different problems. So the easiest way to do this is to line up the decimal points and start at the left. So what I've done, and I'm going to move this up just a little bit so you can see it. I'm actually going to click the X here just so that, okay. So if you look, I've got these same decimals lined up in a decimal place value chart here. So all I've done is I've broken it down into the ones place, the tenths place, the hundredths place, and the thousandths place. And I've just organized it that way so I can easily line up my digits, okay? So it says, compare the digits in each place value position until the digits are different, okay? Until they're different, and then that's going to tell you which one is greater or which one is less than. So if you look, and we start in the ones place, every single one of these mountain heights are 2 and something. They all have a 2 in the ones place. So they're all at least 2 miles high. Now let's check out the 10th place. If you notice, Boundary Peak, Cloud Peak, and Wheeler Peak all have a 4 in the 10th place. But Grand Teton has a 6. So what that tells us is Grand Teton is the highest mountain. Now, I haven't labeled that, or I haven't said that anywhere on our anchor chart because there wasn't enough room, but that's something you can get from this data set, is that Grand Teton is the highest mountain because of the 6 in the 10th place. You don't have to look at any more numbers because that 6 tells you immediately that it is higher. These other numbers don't even matter. Now, what I want us to focus on is just 2 mountains right now, and we're going to compare those 2 mountains using a less than, greater than, or equal to sign. So the 2 mountains I want us to compare are Boundary Peak and Wheeler Peak. And if you notice, I've circled both of those decimals down here. So this one is Boundary, 2 and 488 thousandths miles high, and Wheeler Peak, 2 and 493 thousandths miles high. And if we're going to do the very same thing we just did when we found out Grand Teton was the highest mountain, we're going to compare the ones place. Remember, they're all the same. Now the 10th place. Well, Boundary Peak has a 4 and Wheeler Peak has a 4 in the 10th place. So they are the same. Okay. Let's look at the 100th place. Boundary Peak has an 8. Wheeler Peak, though, has a 9. So that immediately tells you, okay, you don't have to look at the 1000th place. The 100th place now told us which one is greater than and which one is less than. So Wheeler Peak, having a 9, is greater than the 8 in the 100th place for Boundary Peak. So I wrote it in a comparison sentence right here. 2 and 488 thousandths is less than, remember that alligator opening up to the bigger meal that you learned in 1st and 2nd grade? Is less than 2 and 493 thousandths miles high. And I could also write it the other way and have a greater than sign. I just need to make sure my alligator's mouth is opening up to the greater decimal, okay? And I even wrote it out in a sentence over here. I'm going to move this. I'm afraid on your screen you can't see it. It says, Boundary Peak is shorter than Wheeler Peak. Boundary Peak is shorter than Wheeler Peak because of the digits in the 100th place. That was the 2 that were different. All right. Go out and practice in comparing and ordering decimals, doing your lesson 3.3 is what this is, ISE assignment. Have a good day, guys.